All right. This is Kelsey Rice. I'm with Green Energy TV. Today I have Rob Ryan. He is the president of the Normal in Ohio. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me, Rob. Why don't you just briefly introduce yourself and a little bit about Normal?
Okay, my name is Rob Ryan, and if you really want to know more about me, it's robryan.org. Okay, it's leftover from my political days. Okay, more than information than you ever want to know. But anyway, NORML is the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, as you know, and maybe some of your viewers don't, but we are the Ohio chapter, okay? And our mission is to legalize marijuana for medical use, industrial use, and personal use. Okay, and our vision of the future is one where marijuana is legally traded, bought, sold, properly labeled, and free of the black market influences that we currently have in our legal environment. Okay?
Well, obviously, a lot of people are usually familiar with their own state, maybe not familiar with what's going on in other states. What's the current status of Ohio, regarding legalizing medical marijuana and even recreational?
Well, actually, Ohio, in some respects, is pretty tough on one level. Okay, but I'm the Ohio president, and I interact with all my peers across the country, and I used to poke them, okay, and ask them a trick question, and before Colorado and Washington, though, and I'd ask, who has the best marijuana possession laws in the country? And they'd say, California, we got medical, and I said, well, what if you don't have medical? And they'd say, oh boy, and so on and so forth, the other states, and then they'd eventually get around to ask, what's Ohio? And I said, well, we are a decriminalized state. We've been one of the early decriminalized states, and for about 100 grams, it's a kind of a traffic ticket. Okay. So that's pretty darn good until Washington and Colorado come around. And we're just number 3.
Right.
So we need to get back to be number 1. Okay. And someone could argue all the little details, but there is nuances to the decriminalized status. Okay. And that's one of the things that we actually have been focused on and very effective. Okay, and I'll go on with a couple examples if you want me to.
Absolutely.
Okay. At one point in time, we try to focus on something on a very periodic basis. We have annual meetings, and we decide where we're going to go and what we're going to focus our efforts on. And one of the early ones was on gun ownership. Okay. And Ohio used to have a law that if you had even the most minor of marijuana offenses, that you were considered a mentally disabled person.
Okay.
And it was kind of a sleeper law. And as a consequence of being a mentally disabled person, you were under the weapons of disability, and it was a high felony if you actually owned a firearm. And it was 2 Cincinnati police officers. It's kind of an odd law because the way the decrim is, it doesn't interact with the gun ownership laws.
Sure.
Right? And so it's as I say, a sleeper law. But anyway, 2 Cincinnati police officers got somehow exposed, right, to that they had this past history, and so they had to hang up their guns. Okay, police officer hanging up their guns is not good.
No, not good.
Okay. And so it went all the way up to the Ohio Supreme Court, okay? And the law said shall, and shall is a very strong word legally. And so we took it upon ourselves. We watched this case develop. And so we developed a specialized little flyer, which we have these little flyers, okay? And it was about the gun ownership laws, and we saturated the various gun clubs, the gun shooting ranges, the knife and gun shows, and so on and so forth. And I remember one particular guard came up to me and says, "What are you passing out?" Right? And he took a look at my little handout and said, "Let me have some." And so I think I would claim responsibility for changing that law, but we sure sparked the changes. Okay, that law is gone. And the other thing that's happened is after that we focused on paraphernalia. Paraphernalia is weird, you know. I think I can make this little card here into paraphernalia. You know what I mean?
Yep.
By folding it or doing something, rolling something in it or whatever. And it used to be a very onerous and much higher offense than actual possession of marijuana.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so that was a focused effort. And as a consequence of Senate Bill 337, my senator, Senator Seitz, championed that bill. That law is gone. Okay. And right now we're working on the driver's license suspension. Okay. And that was due to a federal law, which about half of the states there is an opt-out clause. And about half the states, I'm not sure about Minnesota.
Yep, it exists in Minnesota.
Well, it can be pushed away, and it was under the misunderstanding that there was a window that was closed, and I brought it up to my senator that that's not true. And the argument is very effective, and perhaps you'll steal it, okay? And I worked on this for quite a while. That's given my political kind of nature. But it was interesting because I testified several times up there in Columbus. And it was the very first time that an Ohio normal representative, president, that was me at the time, I still am, rather, was invited to testify at a Senate hearing on this, Senate Concurrent Resolution 27. And I remember one particular senator, she said, you know, why are we doing this? You know, we got other things to do, da-da-da-da-da, you know. Chad, she said she's going to have lots and lots of questions. And this was before the hearing. And so I spoke with her and tried to listen to what her concerns were and addressed a little bit of them in my testimony. And she asked a question, one question, and ended up voting for it. But my parting words at that testimony was, it's not whether or not you're a supporter or an opponent of marijuana reform. It's that the driver's license suspension issue is an economic one. Okay, if a person doesn't have a driver's license, they're going to lose their job. Okay, or if they don't have a job, they're not going to get a job. Okay, and sometimes the judges will allow some sort of dispensation to go from home to work. Okay,
right.
One or the other, boom, boom. But it doesn't allow them to go to the hardware store,
right,
or the movies, or there, or, you know, and that's economic impact.
right.
And so that argument was quite successful, and it has the support of the Republican caucus, which is the dominant party in Ohio, the governor's office, and the Judiciary Advisory.
Okay.
And so I think it's well on its way to being a success. And of course, we've, you know, I used to be the president of a different group before I was president here, of a patient network, because I'm a 3-time cancer survivor. And we've introduced medical marijuana laws in the legislature 4 times.
Okay.
4 times. That's over 8 years in nary a hearing. So now we have a ballot effort underway, and it'll be interesting to see if they. I tell these legislators, I said, look, marijuana legalization is going to happen. Okay? So you should just deal with it. And I kind of get a little verbose, and it depends on which party I'm talking to.
Okay.
I say, if I'm talking to Republicans, I say, these Democrats are going to try to get something on the ballot, and it's going to win. So you guys might as well take control of this issue.
Okay.
And so that's kind of, we'll see how it goes. But marijuana legalization is going to happen, and people just need to deal with it.
Right.
And it's going to be okay.
It will be okay. Yes, it will. Economically, you brought that up. What do you think, how is that going to impact Ohio when it just comes to different revenues and things like that on the economic scale?
Well, that's an interesting, I was looking around Cincinnati, and we have a lot of, Cincinnati used to be a very highly industrialized center of the country. A lot of factories, a lot of Ohio has that. And so there's a lot of empty factories, and I can see that they could have some utilization for the what I'll call the recreational components. They want to be inside a controlled environment rather than out there in the hemp fields.
Right.
But the other thing is Kentucky and Ohio probably have one of the best lands. George Washington even noted that in his survey of the Ohio Valley, that this is the best hemp growing location he has seen. And we have a number of streets and cities and avenues and so on and so forth. I want to make up a little poster of all the things that are hemp stead, hempville, hemp that in Ohio. Hemp is a rich part of Ohio history. Pardon me 1 minute. I'm on the telephone for an interview.
That's okay.
Okay, so anyway, but yeah, if you look at Ohio's history, and if you actually even look at the state symbol, okay, there's an interesting crop in the background.
Okay.
And there's quite the debate. Is that hemp or
I'll
not?
have to go check it out again.
Yes.
So it sounds that it would actually impact you guys significantly because obviously for growing purposes.
Oh, actually, I think it has quite a potential in that, that Canada grows hemp.
Okay.
Okay, every industrialized country in the world grows hemp. Okay, and one of the laws that Congress passed some time ago was the biodegradable content of automobiles, and they and Europeans are doing this quite a bit. They're using hemp in automobiles, and Canada is growing hemp. Okay, right across your border. Okay, and processing it into panels and shipping it to Detroit to put in American cars.
So yeah, keep it
And
in-house.
Ohio has a rich automotive history, so manufacturing base. So it's time to stop digging a hole and start growing this plant.
Absolutely. Sounds. There's a lot of revenues to be made. So.
Yeah.
In regards to, there's obviously people who have a lot of perspectives, positive, negative, to it being legalized. I mean, what do you think the negatives could be from legalizing marijuana?
Well, it'd probably put the thugs out of business. So, that's a negative in certain quarters. And actually, I kind of joke about that, but some of the opposition I encounter in our public outreach events is from that quarter. They are not the supporters of marijuana legalization. There is potential negatives. Product labeling is a big thing in my mind. We need accurate product labeling. Maureen Dowd went out to California just the other day, and she took too much of the edibles. And so, letting people know what's in certain things is very important, and especially some of those edibles, they're all over the board. And marijuana edibles can, I'll use the term loosely and not accurately, in that you can, quote, overdose, you can overdo the edibles, because, well, quite frankly, some of them taste really good. Okay, and it's a much more time release kind of thing than inhalation, and that self titration with inhaling it through your lungs is quite different than putting it into your stomach, because it depends on what's in your stomach, how much time, and so on and so forth. And you say, oh, I'll have another brownie. Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one. And pretty soon you're just like, whoa, too much.
But there hasn't been any cases of people ODing. There's not been a single case.
Well, actually, there was a case in Texas. A guy got pulled over, and the officer says, what's that on his seat? And the guy swallowed a baggie and choked.
Oh.
But in reality, it is impossible to overdose, die from marijuana. It just doesn't affect that part of the brain. It's impossible. It's just alcohol. You can die from alcohol.
Absolutely.
You can die from nicotine. Babies have died from drinking water that people have put cigarettes in, and it's become saturated with nicotine, and it's rare, but it is possible, and it has happened. So marijuana is not deadly, not addictive, and it does have medical use, and quite contrary to what is defined as a Schedule I drug.
Okay. Well, I think that is a perfect way to end. I couldn't have said it better myself, in regards to it not being dangerous as people are that some people think it is. So I do thank you for your time. Again, this is Rob Ryan, and you can go to NORML, which is NORML.org for more information. So.
But let me put in a plug for my Ohio friends. It's OhioNormal.org. Okay, and let's see. Let me put up our little state symbol here, and I don't know if you can see that.
A little bit higher. There you go. Perfect.
All right.
All right.
OhioNormal.org, and perhaps I'll show you that chart. Maybe I'll send you a graph of this chart, which right here, it shows quite clearly marijuana legalization is going to happen.
If you send that to me, we will put a link. We will definitely put a link on to the video with that. Absolutely.
Okay, maybe I'll just include the whole presentation.
Sure. I'm sure. Okay. The more information we can get out there, the better. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful night, and thank you.